Okay, so welcome back to the channel. My name is Mason Dupree. If you've never been here before, welcome. If you have, welcome back, and thank you guys for watching. This is sort of a video documentary where I sort of record kind of my progress as I'm sort of building my own business as well as working full-time for another agency. Both my business and the company I work for are marketing agencies. And I'm just sort of documenting things. You know, this isn't the first time I've talked to a camera. I used to do this a lot just to sort of journal, if that makes sense. And you know, for me, it's more about being able to reflect and personal development and building skills than it is about anything else. And you know, I've made this disclaimer before, but I am in marketing. I have nothing to sell you guys. You know, I just want to sort of provide value because, you know, if I find value in these videos, I'm sure someone else will. And at the end of the day, if all I ever achieve is that someone can watch one of these videos and kind of get something from it, then I think that's enough, right? So, today, sort of the topic I want to talk about is sort of a cliche one. I don't want to regurgitate information. I want to avoid that at any chance I possibly can, but I do want to speak on my personal experiences. And I think this one is sort of a big one for me. It's a skill that I had to develop, like many who have done this before, through a lot of work and time. And you don't see the benefits for a while. It's kind of like lifting in a way, but it's more of just retaining your focus. Really being able to deep work, and that's kind of the topic of today's video is deep work. I read this book. It was one of the first books I started reading last year, 2023 actually. So I didn't really read a whole lot over 2024, but 2023 was a huge year for me in terms of reading. And Deep Work was one of my favorite books. I took the jacket off. Quick note, when you're reading, don't baby these things. They're books. Like the idea is to just get the information out of it and move on. You can write in them, tear them, whatever. I hate book jackets, so I ripped mine off. But anyway, deep work is sort of a skill that I did not have when I started my agency. I was like everyone else. I was in college. I was, scrolling on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and spending hours a day on those things. And I can promise you right now that it definitely contributed to a decline in my skills and development. And it's not something you realize until you get out of that bubble. But I was so motivated through high school. I didn't really have a lot of those apps. I'm sure I did, but I didn't use them to the extent that I did in college. I sort of just relaxed in sort of a land where you just kind of scroll, and you never stop. And I know everyone that's probably watching this has felt that before. You just sort of get sucked into it and then you're stuck there. And so to be very, productive and to really give my agency a big, real attempt at being successful, I wanted to commit my energy to it completely. And at the time, there was a lot of things going on, and so I could kind of shut out a lot of friends and a lot of other things going on outside of me and just sort of really narrow my focus to what I was trying to be good at. And it was sort of just a personal development period for me where I went through, reading a lot of books and learning a lot of things and trying to build my agency and working incredibly hard. And I guess really the takeaway from this video for myself is that I'm trying to get back to that hyper-focused period in life because I think I need it again. It's not monk mode, and I know that's so cringy, but it's sort of just a period of deep focus, and I sort of wanted to share how I got into the deep focus, reflect on that, share it with you guys, as well as some of the takeaways from this book. This is not a book review channel of any kind. It's just if I find a good book and I think it made a big impact, then I want to share it. Deep Work being one of them, one of my favorite. I love Cal Newport, and I ended up picking up his book, Be So Good They Can't Ignore You, which is another fantastic book if you haven't read it. Not as great as Deep Work though. Deep Work is definitely one of the best. And one of the things he starts with in this book is going to war, basically, essentially. I mean, it's really aggressive against social media and email. And some of you might be thinking email and hold on to that thought, but for social media, I think it's very obvious, just getting rid of it. And so for me, what I did is I deleted TikTok, I deleted YouTube, Netflix, Disney, X, or Twitter, Instagram, obviously all of them. I would tend to watch Netflix or Disney Plus if I didn't have Instagram and all that other stuff. So removing all of any sort of media, video, any entertaining app, right? Just getting rid of it. Because the idea was to cut down the main metric of screen time. And then what I did is I put screen time, you can make it a widget on your iPhone, on your home screen. So every time I opened my phone, I would see how much time I'd spent on my phone that day and what apps I was spending time on. You'll be amazed at that point once you've removed all of the, the social media. And I know people have had it worse than me. I've had it pretty bad. I've seen 6 hours a day on social media on average time for particular apps, right? So I know what it's like to I was maybe one of the worst offenders, right? So I really had to do this. And I'm sure that there's people who can practice self-control, but honestly, I think being deeply focused is more about removing distraction than it is about allowing it and just, tolerating it, if that makes sense. In my experience through that period of time when I was shutting down all these apps, they would also still try to email you and things like that. And if you were to go into like Facebook, for example, they want to email you for every single little reason possible. And there's all these push notifications, including X, including YouTube, even Snapchat, of just all of these things trying to get you back onto the platform. And you should never allow yourself to be distracted by these, it's not that you need to pick up your phone when it's convenient for you, not be distracted by these kind of insane notification volumes from all kinds of different apps trying to pull your direction in 10 times, 10 different directions. And yeah, so I removed all of the social media from my apps. I removed all the social media apps from my phone, as well as all the YouTube and things like that, all the media ones. And it was crazy. One of my first experiences, when you're really hooked on it, it's bad. And you'll open your phone whenever you're bored after that, and you'll muscle memory over to where Instagram should be and try to click it. That's when you know you've got like a problem, right? So getting rid of all of those, I've let them back in, and to an extent I still have excuses, like I want to grow on Twitter and I want to do replies. When I was really locked in, what I would do is actually just keep Instagram or Twitter on my computer. And that added an extra barrier where, I have to go look there, and I would usually only check it once a day, in which case I'm only spending 10 minutes a day on social media. I set screen time limits so that I'm no longer, I'm not on there for any longer than 15 minutes. I now blow through those screen time limitations. I really wish that there was a way to make it so that you really get no more screen time, but you could always allow another 5, 10, 15 minutes up to an infinite amount. It's like being able to hit the snooze button on an alarm. I went through a stage where I tried to set a pin on it and gave the pin to someone else. Then they set the pen and they had the pen so that I could try to not be able to expand my time on Twitter. Unfortunately, that doesn't work. You can expand time without a pen. So I wish that screen time got a little bit more hardcore and that you could actually set pens that, I don't know. It seems like a child lock thing. If you had some sort of a system where you can set a screen time limit and that screen time cannot be surpassed without the pen and the parent has to give the pen, I thought that would be a setting, but it's not. Anyway, that's my problem with being sort of addicted to these reels. I've seen how bad it can get, right? And your attention span is so shortened. And I think a lot of people whip it out, going onto Instagram and they're like, oh, it'll only be a few seconds, but then it turns into 20 minutes and 20 minutes is gone like that, right? And one of the principles that deep work talks about is that you only get 4 hours of deep work a day. So the rest of the, if there's 8 hours in a day, at a work day, 4 hours is hyper deep focused work. The rest of it is that surface level answering emails and text messages and Slack messages and all that stuff, right? So if you're really going to get something done, you need about 2 to 3 hours. 4 hours is on the good side. So another thing that this kind of book taught me was that you sort of develop the skill of deep work and you develop how to work harder, because it is something that if you haven't really done for yourself before, then you're definitely going to have to get used to. It's not so much that I didn't have a good work ethic. I think I had a fantastic work ethic when it came to physical labor, like cutting lawns and stuff like that. I could go all day long, and it's so satisfying when you turn around and see a fresh cut lawn and you can see your work and what you've made happen, right? But when you're working intellectually and you're solving problems, it's not always clear how much progress you're making, and I think that can be sort of demotivating. And so, it's hard to make progress initially. It's not going to feel like progress initially. And then once you start to getting to deep work, you can pick sort of one thing that will move the needle. And I talked about that in my last video with my journals. I just pick one task a day that really sort of moves the needle, and I really attack that one first, and then I can move on to the next ones. And sometimes I don't get it done. I move it to the next day. But it's because I'm working hard and working deeply on particular problems that I was able to rapidly, learn and evolve, especially my business. And another thing was the reading. I mean, I think everyone knows they should probably read more. And I should read more than I did, even then. My goal was sort of a pie in the sky goal of 52 books a year, or 52 books in a year. I think I got to 38. And one thing you run into when you're shooting, for that high of a reading rate is the expensiveness of books. They do get expensive quick. I mean, on that shelf behind me is probably over, at least $600 in books, which is kind of crazy. And if you're buying, if you're completing a book a week roughly, then you're forking over at least $30, $40 a week on books, right? And I would usually order 2 to 3 at a time, because I usually try to revolve 2 to 3 at a time. But that's not really the point. The point was more so that I actually struggled to read personally and did not enjoy it, coming right out of getting off of social media and all that stuff. And I hated it. It actually kind of was a painful, process to get to the first book. And it's shameful to admit, but it's true. And I think, if you guys are struggling with that, then it's important to sort of admit so that you don't, see all these people kind of surpassing the hard parts. But it took a lot of effort to get through the first book, and probably even the second book. But I'll be honest, the only one I really remember is that first book. That first book took me so long, and it felt like a drag. It felt like a job to sit down and read. And I think, what you're reading and how interested you are in that topic is really going to make a big difference. And then, sometimes books suck, and that just is what it is. Never waste time reading a bad book. I don't know how this video turned into how to read book or how to read video. But it is, something that has to do with sort of retention and the attention span that you have. Once you get out of the real world, like Reels, REEL, you're able to focus for a lot longer of a period of time. You're able to watch movies again without checking your phone. And you're able to appreciate these longer form pieces of content. And oftentimes, that also leads to other things. Like if you're watching really boring instructional videos on technical aspects to improve your business, beforehand that would have been hard to do without checking your phone. Even a 5 to 10 minute video would have been hard to watch. But now, you can sit down and be comfortable in the silence and listen to this probably incredibly boring video, but find the value in it, right? And so, I think a lot of us have very shortened attention spans, and we need to exercise them and get them back to where they are. And I think the best way to do that is just cut it out, and you can go through seasons. Like when I'd go home for break or whatever it was, I would obviously like re-download X or, Instagram. I'd let myself go for a week or two, sort of like you do with Thanksgiving when you just eat too much food, you shouldn't. But like the idea is you really want to remove the amount of distractions that you can to then be able to benefit you while you're trying to sit down and really lock in on something for a long period of time. And, Alex Hormozi takes it to a whole other level. He's got nicotine gum and he's sitting there in like a dark room with headphones on, with his nose patch on, locked into a screen. And I try to do that to a certain extent. I won't go so far as to get nicotine gum, but yeah, I think focus is something that you have to work on. It's a muscle. It's it's something you've got to exercise and continue to work on. And again, don't think that you're going to get 4 hours a day. 4 hours is the high metric for experts who have been developing the skill of deep work. That's what this book says. So it sets a good, benchmark to try and get yourself to. If you can sit there and deeply focus without talking to anyone else, without any distractions, and just get through 4 hours of work, imagine what you could accomplish, right? And that's all you really need to get out of a day. I mean, if you can stretch it more, you can, but you get to a point of diminishing returns, right? So just looking for 4 hours of deep focus. And if you can get that done, then you're going to move mountains, and you're going to improve yourself, so much more, and you're going to do it at such a faster rate than anyone else is that, they're going to think like, where does this kid get the time, And it's because we all have the same amount of time. It's just how you choose to spend it, right? And I know that sounds cliche, but all those people that are wondering like, where do you have the time to watch these videos or read these books or whatever it is, and it's because I decided to do something different with my time than sit there and watch Reels. One of the hardest battles of the day right now is coming home from work after I've been working, hard on problems for the business, and then coming home exhausted, wiped out and tired, and just kind of rather just take a nap or sit there and, melt into my phone for 2 hours and sit down and continue to work, but on my own business, because if I don't do that, no one else will, right? So, you've got to fight distraction. And from this point on, I sort of want to, I'll report on it occasionally, but I'm going to remove X and Instagram from my phone. And I'm going to, get back to really tracking my screen time and getting it down to as low as I possibly can. What I do find is that obviously when you start to work harder, you're going to find that your screen time actually goes up on your laptop. And that's actually because you're in, in certain applications and things like that. So you can actually track the amount of time you've shifted from Instagram over to, other apps, Go High Level, whatever it is you're working in. And you'll be able to tangibly count the hours that you're saving and the hours that you're actually committing to doing something better for yourself every day. And that's when it gets kind of rewarding. But yeah, try to get your screen time under 2 hours a day on the phone. That's a pretty difficult benchmark to hit. It sounds like it's easy, but it's actually difficult if you're getting text messages and things like that throughout the day. You'll be amazed how long a text takes to reply to. Maybe that's just me, but I appreciate your guys' attention and thank you guys for making it so far through the video. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Also, please comment. I respond to all the comments and hopefully I get to engage with you there. Ask any questions you want to. I've been doing this for about 8 years now. So, whether it's, Instagram marketing and DMs and stuff like that, or Facebook ads, Google ads, LinkedIn ads even. I mean, building CSV files to actually bulk upload campaigns. Like if that's something you didn't know that existed, it exists and it's really cool. Yeah, just ask me any questions about anything and I'd be happy to kind of deliberate on it and let you know some more. But yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. See you again.